There are two things that will serve you well: patience and the ability to be flexible. You can have your 10-year plan, you can have your 5-year plan, you can have your 1-year plan, but if you're not patient enough to act on it and wait for the good things to come, and then you're quitting all of a sudden because things don't look like they're going to shake out, then you've already lost the battle. But if you allow yourself to be flexible, it may not look exactly what you're envisioning, but it looks like you're getting closer and closer, and you just have to have some wiggle room to make it work for you. Then you can get a lot further in life.
Welcome everybody to episode 24 of the Paul and Pals podcast. I'm your host, Ponyboy Paul, and Paul and Pals is a podcast where I interview my creative pals to learn how they became who they are today to inspire you for tomorrow. On this episode, I have a creative conversation with my pal Donovan Colquitt. He is the founder of the Scholar's Key, an organization dedicated to helping students go to college debt-free. And in this episode, we have a creative conversation about how he wrote his first book while he was still a teenager, overcoming struggles just throughout his whole life, and then ending up to win $1.25 million in scholarships. So it's going to be a good one. Definitely tune in if you're kind of getting ready for that route, if you consider yourself interested in engineering, or if you're a parent listening and want to help your kids succeed as well. So without any further ado, let's get creative. How's the Midwest treating you?
It's the Midwest.
I like that.
It's definitely not too much going on.
He said it's quiet. But no, I appreciate you for coming on, man. I love how, I think when I reached out to you, once again, just got back to me really quickly, and you was like, yo, I got you, bro. Here's the stuff. Here's all you need. And I think you were doing all that while you were still trying to get your PhD. So first of all, congrats on that. Are you done? Or are you like still trying to wrap it up? But what's the update with that?
Right. So I have recently passed my preliminary defense and finished my final class. So I'm ABD, all but dissertation. I just got to write now. It's just paperwork at this point.
Got you. But now that's big, man. My mom is always asking me about, grad school and all that stuff. And I'm always like, yeah. But I think for you, I'm really excited. We're going to talk about it, but I'm excited to hear about you did PhD and masters and all that stuff that I have no interest doing. So I want to always start by kind of how we met. And I was kind of reflecting on this because I'm like, I don't think there was a moment where it was like, oh, hey, I'm Donovan. Hey, I'm Paul. Mm-hmm. I just felt like, once again, University of Michigan, small black population. And then with even that, you have a small black engineering population. So it's like, it got to the point where I felt like even if you didn't know them, you were aware of everybody. Like if you were like, oh, wait, is that, you knew? Like, so that's really all that is. But this episode is more about you, and I want to kind of cover a lot of things, especially the entrepreneurship side and all that stuff. But I want to ask you, where would you like to start with your story? If you want to take us, back to the beginning.
Yeah, let's take it there. So for all those that don't know, I'm getting my PhD in engineering education. And for me, engineering has been a love-hate relationship. Maybe that much, not too much hate, but I've definitely fallen out of love and fallen back in love with engineering. So that starts when I was as early as the 4th grade. It was the first time I wrote down that I wanted to be an engineer. I come from a family of engineers. My dad is a mechanical engineer. His 2 sisters are mechanical engineers, and my granddad, his dad, is a mechanical engineer. Wow. And I was never forced or pressured to ever want to go into engineering. I think I just witnessed my dad always working on his classic car, and we were blessed enough to have computers in all of our bedrooms, so he would be fixing on those different things, and that exposure, especially as his son wanted to be closer to him, I saw that as a way to become closer with him. And so I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. I initially wanted to be a chemical engineer because I love Kool-Aid, so I love mixing drinks.
Wait, don't do that, man.
For real, I love mixing drinks as a 4th grader. I thought that's what chemical engineers did. I just thought they mixed drinks all the time.
Yeah.
Little old me did not know chemistry was definitely harder than that. But I knew I wanted to play with cars. Being from the Motor City, Detroit car culture is a big thing. So I knew I wanted to play with cars. I thought mechanical engineers just play with cars all day. That's not really what it is,
Yeah,
but
I
but it's
learned
part
that
of it.
quick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
So
Got
I
you.
I in the fourth grade was very eventful because that same year I made a deal with my mom that if I got a full ride scholarship to the University of Michigan's College of Engineering, then she would buy me a new blue Corvette. And the blue is my favorite color. The Corvette was my favorite car as a kid because I used to drive on Need for Speed, getting chased by the police all the time in the newest blue Corvette at the time. And
Yeah,
so, I was like, how do I get this car? I
I
want
feel
this car.
that.
How can I do this? So I made that deal with my mom, and I actually it came to fruition. I didn't get the Corvette at
Okay,
all,
what to
but
say? Did you get
I got
it?
I got a full ride scholarship to college, and
Hey, bless up.
um, yeah. So actually, I did get a nice blue Camaro actually out of the
Okay,
deal.
okay.
So
Got you.
dreams can come true in some ways, and
Facts.
some right. So it worked out, but
Got you.
yeah. So I definitely I ended up winning $1.25 million in scholarships my senior year of high school. I wrote a book called The Scholar's Key: How You Can Unlock Your Dreams as a Teen to help motivate other teens to apply for scholarships because I think that that's the best way to be able to get your college degree is for free and to get
Hmm.
paid to go to school. So
Yeah.
that's a big part of the mission for me.
Got you. Now, that's a lot. I think we summarized almost your whole life. Then I'm curious a lot about obviously your journey. That's the whole point of my podcast. But I'm kind of curious, why is fourth grade so eventful? Like how old were you at this time? Was there something about that year, or just because it seems like it stands out to you?
Fourth grade was a big year because I initially, growing up, I went to Detroit Public Schools, and my mom got married in my third grade year. Third grade year, I had also gotten all A's and one B plus in the entire school year. So people were
Mm,
like trying to get me promoted for school. Like they wanted to double promote me so I would be in the fifth grade. But I was moving to Southfield Public School System, and it was a few more people. It was people of different races. It was predominantly black in Detroit public schools, but at the time, early
yeah.
on, it was definitely a lot more white people at Southwood public schools. So the
Got
school
you.
system was a little bit more tougher. So I
Hmm.
went into the fourth grade with this mindset of, oh, I'm smart. I'm gonna get double promoted. But I took a test. And they said I would be a C student if I if I got double promoted. So I was like humbled a
Yeah.
little bit. I got a C
Yeah.
in writing actually in the first C ever in the fourth
That's
grade.
funny.
So
And you
uh,
got a whole book out. That's
yeah,
funny.
yeah, exactly. And we had just moved to Southfield in the fourth grade, so a lot of stuff was happening just in general in that
Mm.
year. So it sticks out to me a lot.
Got you. Okay. And then another thing that you mentioned that I think maybe because I'm more Michigan, so I kind of know a little bit more about the Detroit side of things. But like it seemed like your whole family was kind of in the auto business, I would assume.
Yeah, even my mom, she's not an engineer, but she worked for Ford for a few years. She still works for Ford actually. And my
Got you.
dad works for an automotive supplier, and so did my aunts. So it was pretty much if you lived in the area, you probably were in
Yeah,
some way affected by the big three.
I see. And I asked that because I'm curious, like, how did that year '08 affect you? Because I feel like obviously the recession, but I think it hit Detroit a little bit harder. And I wanted to
Yes,
know, were you kind of, is that memorable to you? I don't know if you were old enough, young enough.
that's very memorable. I was just starting high school at the time, 2008. It was actually a year before high school. And so that was the year that my parents filed for bankruptcy. Um, they lost their jobs. My stepdad was an electrician. He couldn't get work, and we were struggling financially. That around 2009 was the year that we actually lost our home. We ended up moving into a townhouse that was roach infested. We weren't. I wasn't prepared for that. I know my stepdad was. He couldn't wait to get out. This wasn't the life that he wanted for us. And
Mhm.
so that year was a year that I was kind of determined to make sure that I would never put myself or my family in a similar financial situation. I
Mm-hmm.
knew I would have to put in the work. As a high school student, I did not want to be social. I did not want to be in extracurricular activities. So I was like, that's more work. But if you learn how to play the game, if you learn the game, you learn how to play the game, you will realize that the work that you have to do in high school is preparing you for success later on in life. So I had to do extracurricular activities. I took on 3 jobs at one point in time in my high school
Wow.
career because I was like, first I need to afford the future, but also I need to make sure I have that work ethic so that people will be willing to invest in my future.
Mm-hmm. And was there, because I feel like, early high school, you're still kind of young, right? Your parents are still taking care of you, right? Was there a lot of pressure from them when they recognized the situation where they're in, where they were like, "Yo, Donovan, you got to kind of go get it. You got to get after it," or did you more take that on your own and was like, "Man, I gotta help the family out."
Yeah, my mom was a C student growing up, and so when I got my first C, I remember the night before, I was sweating. I was like, I probably got a C. I don't know how I'm gonna survive this. My mom might beat me up or whatever. You never know with a black parent.
Yeah, yeah, you
But
never know. You
but
gotta hide it.
I never forget. I showed her my report card that next day, and she just was like, I don't, you don't have to be perfect. This is perfectly okay and normal. I was a C student. I don't expect you to do any better than I did. And so my parents, my family never really pressured me to do everything that I ended up doing. But I
Mm,
knew that I took it upon myself to say I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a change, not just for me but for my family. I don't want us to be in debt trying to afford an education. I don't want to be in debt trying to pay for what I should be working towards. So I took it on myself
gotcha.
to actually do the work, and
Word.
it paid.
Facts. Big paid. And I
Right.
want to I want to get more into that. So, you mentioned that you started getting more jobs because you were kind of I'm assuming you were thinking of college and tuition and stuff. But I guess when did you make that transition to realizing how to really tackle the scholarship game?
Yeah, so I remember in my junior year of high school, I had a computer class in the springtime, and the class was the easiest class I'd ever taken. You just type and you copy whatever paper that you're given, and then you're done with your
Yeah.
work. So I took it upon myself to start looking for scholarships. My first scholarship search was high school scholarships for seniors, or yeah, like seniors for high school scholarships. Or I can't even get the word right.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, bro. Hey, we'll edit it out, bro.
Scholarships for high school seniors is what I'm trying to say. It's a tongue twister. Believe
That's a
me.
hard one, bro. I'm not even gonna repeat it. I'm not even gonna try.
but
Yeah.
but when I did that search, I just saw a list of scholarships. It was like abundant. I still see the same websites to this day with that search. And I remember one particular Saturday, I took it upon myself to apply to at least 5 scholarships. I applied. I spent hours working on essays for 5 different scholarships on one website,
Wow.
and I would love to be able to say this. The story just starts there, and I was
Yeah,
successful. After that, I always won scholarships. There was never a failure, but in
yeah.
reality, I didn't get a call back, a text back, an email back from any of these scholarships. Matter of fact, I didn't get a single scholarship my junior year of high school, and that's after applying
Wow.
to as many as I could at the time that I was eligible for. Now, my first
Dang.
scholarship was through the Summer College Engineering Exposure Program, or SKEEP, as
Shout out
Paul
Ski.
knows about.
Yeah.
Right. And that was the first time I got a scholarship. It was the Engineering Scholarship of Honor, and it was a $40,000 scholarship, 10,000 a year for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that really was the catalyst for me to say, all right, I have something. People are willing to invest in me. They see something that I could never see in myself because I was never the confident kid that
Yeah.
that was like my self-esteem was low. and
Hmm.
um, especially after being bullied and teased. So I did not have the same. I was an optimistic person, but I didn't necessarily believe that I would be rewarded for the work that I was doing because I didn't
Hmm.
have the same understanding of who I am or who I was at the time.
Hmm.
So um, after getting that scholarship, I realized that I had something. I was doing work and it was paying for at least my half of my tuition or one third of my tuition at the time.
Yeah.
So I started to apply for more scholarships. I started to do even more work. I started to like collegenet.com. It's no longer a scholarship website, but
Yeah.
you can get a scholarship every week through that website at the time that it was available. And so I would be posting all the time, sharpening up my writing skills so that I could write clean, clear, cohesive essays. And
Yeah.
by the time that I had basically by the time my fall semester had ended, I don't know how many scholarships I applied for, but I don't remember ever getting rejection, and it added up to $1.25 million in scholarships.
Yes, I've never heard the word million in scholarships. You know what I'm saying? That's the crazy part. It's like you never hear like, oh, I did this much and it was a scholarship. And I want to go to how you said you got rejected all that time. So I'm assuming you lost your confidence. So how did you actually win that first scholarship, and how was that experience like?
Um, the first scholarship was through a 12-day program where we basically learn about engineering. We're exposed to college, and I hated doing presentations. But on one of the final days, we had a competition and we also had to do presentations about the work that we were doing in high school. And I just remember sweating bullets and talking to my friends and to the staff, like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. But I just remember being nervous as ever, presenting about my story and all the things that I had been doing in high school. And I remember one lady was in the back just furiously writing down what I was saying. And I was just like, I must be doing okay because she has a reason to write down something.
Yeah.
And it was kind of that hit that told me you're doing the right things. You should be proud of the
Mm,
work that you've done so far.
yeah.
And before I knew it, the end of the day came and we had our ceremony for the closing ceremony. And what they did was they had, I believe, 10 to 12 scholarships, and there were at least 24 students, something around like 26 students. And so what they did was they announced the people who earned the scholarships by their accomplishments first before they said the name. And
Okay.
so I'm hearing these, the people that were kind of like the clear, like, of course they're gonna get the scholarship. The dude who can talk about string theory and teach it in his own presentation is definitely gonna get this scholarship. I do
Yeah.
not know string theory. I'm not gonna win this scholarship.
I still don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either to this day. So we in the same boat.
Yeah.
But but yeah, so they were calling up these different people that were super charismatic, who could present like, or just they were intelligent. They were all these things that I did not see myself as.
Mm.
And so when they finally said the thing that I knew it was me, but I didn't believe it, random acts of kindness committee chair, I was like, wait, somebody else is doing that just like me, you know? And then they started saying more things like, Student Congress, National Honor Society, all these different organizations that I was a part of. And I'm like, it must be me. And so
Yeah.
I walked up to the stage with my mom. And, you know, for me, all the parents look like, of course my child is going to win this scholarship. They didn't seem surprised. It was kind of like it was entitled. But for me and my mom, my mom was a single mother until I was about the age of 9 or 10, actually third grade, fourth grade. And
Yeah.
my mom broke down crying. And it was kind of like, I don't believe in mama, we made it moments. But if that was the moment, that was the moment. because that was an
Yeah,
indicator that all the work I had been putting in school for years was paying off finally. And so
yeah.
it was a moment that I'll probably never forget.
That's beautiful, man. And I think no, that's really dope. And I'm kind of jealous listening because I remember being in Skeep and I forgot about the whole scholarship situation. But I remember thinking like, dang, yo, I might get me something, man. And then they never called my name. I was
I'm
sick.
sorry, Paul. You
But nah,
deserved it though. You deserved the scholarship.
I appreciate that. But now I'm happy to hear that. And it's kind of good to hear like your scholarship origin story, right? Because I
Hmm.
feel like that really motivated to like, oh, I can get it now, right?
Right,
And I relate to that because I feel like we always need that one thing that little validation because we that gives us confidence. You know,
right,
people always like to say like, oh, I don't care what people think, but I think especially when you're trying to do something and you feel like you're not getting the response that you want or deserve, and then you finally get it from something or somebody,
right.
that confidence is crazy. So it seems like it helped you a lot. And you know, we talk about 1.25 and it's scholarships, but I'm really curious. I want to get into like what how are you able to figure out what exactly is needed to win? You know what I'm saying? Because you wrote a whole book about it, you have a whole organization, but I'm always kind of wary about that because I feel like it's really all kind of up in the air still. So, what
Mhm.
did you figure out when you were kind of curating your process?
Yeah, so one of the main things that I really advocate for students to do is to be authentic, be transparent, be vulnerable in their stories. Because if anything, they're trying to invest in your future. They want to know your story. And if you can get good at telling your story in such a way that is emotionally evocative or can be thought provoking, it can really take you a long way. You may not have the 4.0, 3.5 GPA, but one thing that I can bet those students who do have those high grades, they might not have is the ability to tell their story in such a way that can convince someone, hey, I did this hard work, or I'm doing the best that I can. Please invest in me because you don't know what I had to overcome to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not gonna stop me. This is gonna get me to the next place. And you can
Yeah.
help me get to that next place. So being authentic is a life lesson in itself. Be yourself and be proud
Mm-hmm.
of who you are. The next thing I would say is to really the learn the basics of communication because communication is going to get you from one door of opportunity to the next. If you can write, if you can clearly communicate with people, it can take you miles beyond being able to be technically savvy. Because at the end of the day, you are here to serve people, and people are here to be served, to serve each other. In order to serve the world, you have to serve people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So being able to send a letter requesting that letter of recommendation, which some people hate doing. If you can request someone and you can sweet talk them or you can convince them that you are worthy of being invested in,
Yeah.
that can help you go a long way. That can also help you go a long way. So
Mm-hmm.
there's so much that you can do, and
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if I can get into all of it,
Yeah.
but just know that at the end of the day, if you're going to apply, you are already putting yourself ahead of so many others because there's so many people that are convinced that either they shouldn't apply or that they've already been beaten. And so that's a big lesson in there. Don't give up before the race even starts. Apply,
Mm-hmm.
apply, apply, and one or at least a few of those scholarships will at least send you a message back saying we'll get back to you with a award notice or not. But at the end of the day,
Gotcha.
you have to apply because there's probably billions of dollars in scholarships that are not being being taken advantage of. And I know
Yeah.
people who have started scholarships who are like, I started a scholarship but nobody applied at the high school I grew up at. And, where does that leave me? I can't find someone that I want to help. And people are here to help you. So
Mm-hmm.
be willing to get advice, get feedback from your English teacher on your essays, If it's a video essay, try to be creative. Take notes on how other people are doing creative work. But at the end of the day, you have to use your creative bone. You have to be authentic, and you have to be willing to put yourself out there.
Gotcha. That's a good little summary of the Scholar's Key book, which you're willing to give away as a raffle prize. So appreciate you for that. And a lot came to me when you were talking about that because I'm thinking about, a lot of your experience is based on that high school to undergraduate experience, and obviously you went to grad school. So I'm curious, like if I'm listening, right, and I want to go get my MBA or I want to go to grad school and do a master's in something else, right? Do you feel like your book or your courses and services, could they still benefit me if I'm trying to do kind of graduate level stuff?
Yeah, so my book is specifically meant for teens because I wrote it as a teenager. So
Mm-hmm.
if anything you get from the book, you'll get motivation to pursue more than just the degree itself.
Mm.
So if you wanted to use my services, I've gotten 4 fellowships um, for graduate school, which is more than a lot of people can say. So I'd be
Yeah.
willing to coach you through the process of finding and getting and getting fellowships. The
Mm-hmm.
fellowships are a little bit of a different beast because there's a lot more restrictions and there's a lot more requirements for those specific fellowships. So, really, at the end of the day, scholarships and fellowships are about fit. And if you are ever into like search engine optimization or marketing in general, you'll learn that there's going to be keywords that these scholarship organizations or foundations are using to find their target audience. And so, as long as you fit that criteria, you will likely be a viable candidate for the fellowship or the scholarship. So, you have to make sure that you're eligible. And once you are
Gotcha.
eligible for it, you're already halfway through the battle.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's a little bit more like I guess you have the knowledge, and your book is a little bit for the younger people, but it's like it's a little bit more of fitting a specific, match. Like there's a little
Right.
bit more of a higher tier requirement. And I'm kind of curious about this book. You said you wrote it as a teen for teens, but as a teenager, I could even barely write essays. So I'm kind of curious about how did the book come along? Like who inspired that? Who proofread it? Like all of that.
Yeah. Wow. That takes me back. So I was the first African American person to earn the Buick Achievers Scholarship through the General Motors Foundation. And what they did was for the first 5 to ever receive the scholarship, they had them flown out to the NCAA Final Four championship games, and we basically had fun and got to see the city and all the different events that were going on. And so on our way, me, my mom, and my stepdad, on our way to the airport, I remember we were getting bused to the airport itself. And my mom was like, "You could really help people with your story. You should write about this." And I was like, "Really? You think so?" But after my context or my reality began to get expanded as we were in the West End hotel. It was the first time I was ever in the West End. We were paid to
Hey.
get food and all this other stuff. I was like, man, I got it sweet right now. And so that night, or the night after rather, I opened up my book or opened up like a notebook and just started typing out an outline. And that outline was probably magic because I had no idea how the words were just flowing to me. Like, this is what I need to talk about. This is what I need to talk about. And
Mm.
after I got back from Texas, where the NCAA was having a game at the time, I started writing furiously. Every night I was at the kitchen table, at either my girlfriend, my now wife, her family's kitchen table, or like at home in my bedroom, just typing it out. It took me probably a week to get most of it done and 3 weeks to finalize everything.
Wow.
Nobody proofread it. um,
Oh.
nobody proofread it. I was a different child because I was praised in my AP English classes. for the work that I did, and
Mm-hmm.
I was
You said, I don't need no proof for you.
no, I was trying to find one. I tried to get
I
my
see.
English teacher to do it, but she just never got back to me. But yeah, I'm humble. Like I'm a good writer, but I'm
Yeah.
sure I could have done better. And I did not publish the book until 4 years later when I was a senior in college.
What was the reason for the delay?
Um, I was really pushing it hard to like start a YouTube channel and to really start speaking at different high schools. Or I started at my high school that I had gone to, and I just hit a wall at one point, and I had a medical issue where I was hospitalized 3 times in the summer, and
Wow.
that the
Which
diagnosis
summer?
that was the summer after my freshman year. That was the
Okay.
same summer where I was like, all right, I'm about to start everything, YouTube channel, get my logo,
Mm.
everything. And so I was hospitalized 3 times due to my disability, and I that changed my world. I did not see myself. I didn't see myself as myself anymore. I saw myself as broken and damaged. And that really put a it really demotivated me from pushing out the book. But my senior
Mm.
year of high school, I wanted to push out the book because it was like I was tired of being told no and I couldn't do it to anything. Like you know how University of Michigan College of Engineering, being often the only black male in your classes in mechanical
Yeah.
engineering, and just always trying to make a grade and struggling to get there if you ever do. And so I was fed up. And so I made two decisions that changed the course of my life as a senior in college. The first thing was I bought my my wife's engagement ring. And then the second thing was I had finally paid to get self-published in for the book. And so that was my big step. That was my big moment to say, I'm not living life for anybody else. I'm doing what's best for me, and this is what's best for me
Mm.
at this point in time.
Wow. And then I don't want to get too deep and personal on the diagnosis, right? But when this issue came about, was that kind of sudden to you, or did you always kind of had a feeling about something, or did it just really just rock your world out of nowhere?
It rocked my world out of nowhere. I was not
Wow.
prepared.
Got you. And then did you have to like stay out of school for a bit, or were you able to kind of keep going, take any time off?
So I was initially going to take 3 courses that following fall semester, and I ended up dropping 2 courses and just taking 1 course
Mm.
on disability. The following semester, I took 2 courses, and I was able to use disability. Like I forget the name of the organization in the
Yeah.
university, but I was able to get accommodations to be still be full time and get my scholarships while I
Yeah.
took my time to recover
I see.
and
To
take
recover.
classes.
And that's great, man. I mean, that's tough. I mean, I never knew about that, so I think it adds more to your story. But I'm kind of curious about these two decisions you made. One, I want to talk about, you and your wife. It seems like because I think you mentioned girlfriend back in high school, so you guys have been together for a minute, and I feel like committing to that in your senior year is a big deal. So let me hear a little bit more about you guys and your relationship,
Yes.
if you don't mind.
No, not at all. So I met my now wife in the 8th grade. And I remember in the seventh
Wow.
grade seeing her, and she was beautiful. I was like, man, I can't believe she's a year older than me because she's so fine that I know she dressed professionally. She always wore heels. She always had like a professional look to her. And so I was
Uh-huh.
like, man, I can't believe she's in the 8th grade. I'll never get to talk to her. And in the 8th grade, next thing you know, we're in the same math class and we noticed each other, which I never thought I was cute or handsome, no matter how much my mom told me or my grandma told me. I was surprised that she noticed me too.
Yeah.
Um, so so we knows each other. I got her number because of my friend Nick.
Hey, okay,
Right,
okay.
he was like, man, you got to get her number. You like her. So I
Yeah.
asked her. I don't even remember how I asked her, but I just remember calling
You
her.
remember? You were trying to say you remember?
Nah, it's too long. It's too long ago.
All right, you good?
But I call her like almost every day. We would talk for a long period of time. We eventually said I love you in the eighth grade, but she was not allowed to
Wow.
date in the eighth grade. She had
Okay.
cold feet when it came to us having our graduation dinner, our families coming together. She had cold feet, so she kind of like she unofficially broke up with me at that
Dang,
point in
at
time
the graduation
after
dinner.
graduation. Oh man. And so I
I'm
just remember
sick.
going to Cedar Point after that with my family. And I had a deep fear of roller coasters. I had a deep fear growing up of roller coasters. But
Yeah.
I went on every single roller coaster because my life was already over. I was like, she already left me. My life is over.
Yeah.
I'll never find love again. I'm so serious. I went on every roller coaster as if I did not care.
Bro, you went on the Maverick. He said, "F it, bro."
Yep, yep, exactly. I was like, man, forget this.
Dang.
But we
You was
eventually
down bad. Yeah.
we eventually started talking again in our sophomore year, and at the end of sophomore year, we made it official over the summer. So we started
Wow.
dating, and that's how it started at least, and we've
Got you.
been stuck together ever since.
And I love that, man. And how is that kind of been through? Because she's been there through all of this stuff that we've kind of talked about. And I know you guys have something that you guys are kind of working together. I think the Colquitt collective or something like that.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of curious, like, how has her support been? Like, you think she's really added value to your life while you're going through all this stuff that you're going through?
Yeah, so a big part of what probably had me like always over her house was her family. For me, I never felt like I belonged in my family. I never felt like I really belonged in a lot of different places in my life. But with her family, it was really different. It was more authentic, it was just so much more real to me. Because there was a lot of laughing, there was a lot of just fun. And so I spent a lot of time with her family, and I watched a lot of her younger siblings grow up right in front of me. So I've always been invested in her family, and she's always been invested in me. So
Hmm.
the value has been immeasurable in my life because she's been there to critique me on all my speeches. She's been there to help me think through all my thoughts about my regrets, and we go to church together. She's brought me closer to God actually because you know what they say, your relationship with your father is often how you see God. And so I did not have a close relationship
Mm.
growing up with my dad. We didn't get closer until pretty much after I graduated college. But
Wow.
she brought me closer to God because her family raised her to be Christ oriented. So
Hmm.
I mean, the value is immeasurable. I don't want to
Yeah.
say it's got a limit because it's been limitless.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's beautiful, man. I'm glad to see it all kind of working out. And now that you're kind of in this space, you went through all the scholarship stuff. You're finishing school. For you, what do you what do you feel is next for you? Like, what do you want to do next? Because it seems like you've been in the education realm. Do you want to go corporate? Do you want to build your own company? Do you want to just change the world? Like, what's on your mind right now?
A little bit of everything. Sky's the limit. So what I'm currently doing is I just signed a contract to do consulting with a company called First Root, and they are a financial education company. It's software as a service, and they have a participatory budgeting software where they have different schools have their students vote on different proposals, or like they come up with the proposals themselves, they vote on the proposals, and then they come to a consensus to then spend money that's given by the school itself to pay for that project. And so that's my, I guess, entrance into impact investing. I am considering kind of going into more of a ed tech consulting, maybe working with startups. My passion is really STEM entrepreneurship. I would love to get a job where I learn to teach entrepreneurs that are black and brown how to build businesses. a part of my research for my master's in technology leadership and innovation with a specialization in STEM education leadership was to observe a nonprofit that teaches Black and Brown youth in high school how to build their businesses and leverage cultural capital to impact their communities. And so, I have a deep heart for that type of work. And so I'm trying to figure out ways to I guess, bridge the gap between my
Mm.
engineering education degree and entrepreneurship for youth. So
Yeah,
really, I'm open to
you
whatever
figuring it
God
out.
brings into
Yeah.
my course. Yeah.
Nah, I like that. And then you mentioned passion while you were saying that, and I remember I saw maybe I read through one of your poems, right? I saw that
Yes.
you had some poems out, and I'm kind of curious, where did that come out from? All this? Are you still working on that, or what was your inspiration behind that?
Behind the poems,
Yeah.
man, I've been writing poems since the eighth grade when I met the love of my life.
Aw.
She was the reason why I started writing poetry. And so I have a
Dang.
ton of love poems from eighth grade. But growing up, I started to write about my life. Um, and I just wrote two poems a few days ago. I have a son on the way, and so I'm writing letters to him in anticipation for him to read those in the
Wow.
future. And I'm really trying to come up with creative ways to do my dissertation. So I'm writing journal entries, I'm writing poetry, and I really just want to talk about my experiences as a black man in America, as a black man in engineering, as a black man who is now a father. I'm
Mm.
trying to capture the authenticity of what it means to be me, to survive and thrive as me, as someone who has always tried to figure things out but never really had the answers until he just
Yeah.
happened upon them. And
Exactly.
so I'm poetry is just my way of giving back to myself. It's a form of self-care to me, and I'm hopefully I'll be able to write some more poetry for you to see.
Got you. No, that's dope. And congrats once again on the pregnancy and your kid coming. And I want to ask you because I know you're a little bit biased, right? Your main goal is helping people get scholarships, going to college. And I want to ask, like, in this day and age with everything being so accessible, especially when it comes to education, do you feel that you would be in a position to push your kid like, yo, go to college? Or are you more of like, yo, man, like, what do you want to learn? Let me find that resource for you because I feel like it's kind of changing a little bit, right? I don't know
Yeah.
if you're aware of that as well.
Yeah, there's kind of this divide in which universities are seen as dinosaurs now, and
Yeah.
education is more and more accessible each and every day. So, for my child or for my children, I don't think I would push college on them. I think that there's a lot of different ways to get experience, to
Mm.
credential yourself, especially with micro credentialing. Certificates through Google, for example, are a way to validate that you know and have the skills that you need in order to do the job that you want to do. And so
Mm.
I would definitely, especially as the entrepreneurial side of me, wants my kids to not have to work for anybody else, but to pursue their own passion projects and profit off
Yeah.
those as
Mm.
they invest their time and energy and effort. So
Yeah.
I definitely would not be opposed to my children going to college because there's a lot of
Got you.
value in that. There's a lot of network building that you can
Mm.
eventually even hire your own team to do the work entrepreneurially that you want to do. But
Yeah.
as for me, I'm open to having my children figure out their own pathways that doesn't necessarily have to look like college.
Got you. And I guess if somebody is listening, right, and they're in this situation where they're either about to go to college or maybe they're still going through that first year, let's say first year at Michigan in engineering, right?
Mhm.
I guess what would your advice be for somebody that's like they're doing it, but like they're only really doing engineering because somebody told them, hey, you'll make this much money, or you're good at science and math. Like, do you have any advice for somebody that they understand the value of engineering, but they're having that struggle staying motivated. Because I was one of those kids where I wanted to change my major, and I think you might have maybe dealt with some similarities. But do you kind of have advice for that type of demographic?
Yeah, I would never advise anyone to stick with something if they truly felt deep down in their core that it did not fit them, because that can really put yourself in a hole that you do not want to be in for the rest of your life or for the near future. Now, if you
Mm-hmm.
are pursuing engineering because you have an early interest in engineering and you feel like that's the way to go for
Yeah.
it. But if you're just doing it because your parents told you to do it, they thought it was a good idea, I would almost say keep your options open. And if there's something that looks better or more enticing, dibble and dabble in it until you're sure that you want to do it. Because there's so many options in this world that you don't want to be stuck in a job that you hate. Because
Mm-hmm.
there's
Yeah.
no need for that. There's plenty of abundance. There's plenty of income sources that you can find for to sustain yourself and eventually sustain your family. So,
Yeah.
I don't want people to say, "Oh, engineering's hard. I can't do engineering. It's not for me." If you have an interest in engineering, it's for you. The system in which we learn engineering is not built to be sustainable and it is not helping people. And so I know the
Mm-hmm.
history of engineering and I know what all went into making it what it is today. And it is a monster. And so it's not for everybody, but it's also just because you're having a difficult experience in engineering doesn't mean it's not for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. That's some good advice for them. And as we're kind of nearing the end, I always like to leave with some words of advice from my guest, right? And but one thing that you said right there, I'm kind of curious. Like for you, if you had to change one major thing about the way education is, it can be engineering education, but just education as a whole, because I feel like that's been your path, your research. What's like the first thing that kind of comes to mind?
Um, the first thing that comes to mind is really how we nurture a sense of belonging for our students. The whole academic approach to have titles and um, to really distance yourself from the teacher through like sage on the stage, being a lecturer and not really engaging with the student's individual interests. Those are all different pain points that I see that keep students from really learning the material and seeing themselves or envisioning themselves as the people that are capable of doing the work. And so, if I could change anything, I would change that distance between the teacher and the student and the material that they're learning.
Got you. That's some good stuff. You dropping some gems, man.
Thank you.
Uh, and yeah, so kind of going back to the words of advice, and before I say this too, I always it's funny because I was talking about this recently because I saw a post about it. I always ask for words of advice, right? And I did a video recently where I just celebrated my first year anniversary of this
Awesome.
podcast. Thank you, end of April, and I realized like all these words of advice, it's dope, it's great, it's inspirational, the goal of my podcast, but it seems like we tend to forget about the whole discipline aspect, because at the end of the day we know what we got to do, we know what we got to do to make something happen, right?
Mhm.
And I think you're a good witness of this, or version of this, is that if you don't have the discipline to actually go do it, then the words of advice is pointless,
Right.
right? So I want to preface that because I like to ask the words of advice because I think it's always good to hear inspirational messages. But just as a reminder to anybody that that's not gonna be what helps you succeed. It's that will, it's that discipline. So what I would like for you to share, if somebody was to miss this and only heard a clip, what is the one thing that you would want them to know, that you want them to get out of this interview or your life experience?
Yes. So there are two things that will serve you well in your path to finding success, whatever that means to you. And those are patience and the ability to be flexible. Because you can have your 10-year plan, you can have your 5-year plan, you can have your 1-year plan. But if you're not patient enough to act on it and wait for the good things to come, and then you're quitting all of a sudden because things don't look like they're going to shake out, then you've already lost the battle. But if you allow yourself to be flexible and see that it may not look exactly what you're envisioning, but it looks like you're getting closer and closer. And you just have to have some wiggle room to make it work for you. Then you can get a lot further in life, as you fail, as you succeed, as you continue to get on this journey that we call life. So it's not all about surviving, but find ways to thrive in very small, grateful ways.
Hmm.
Because if you can practice gratefulness and you can say, yes, I got this, I found this dollar on the ground. Yes, I'm able to breathe. Yes, I'm able to drink this water without feeling any pain in my gut. I can thrive today. And that's key.
Hmm.
You just gotta look for ways to thrive and change the way that you see things by being grateful.
Got you. Got you, man. That's I liked it, man. You know, I got to be disciplined and actually live that in my life. But that's some true stuff, man. Gratefulness is, I think, something that we tend to take for granted sometimes, or maybe just forget because of what's happening on in our lives. But it's key, man. It's key to really making it or be whatever you consider successful. So I do want to thank you for that. I also want to remind everybody once again that Donovan will be giving away a copy of his book, a free copy of his book, The Scholar's Key. Do you kind of want to promote that a little bit? I know we talked about it, but how would you kind of summarize that, and why should somebody actually read it or go buy it if they hear about this?
Sure. So the Scholar's Key, How You Can Unlock Your Dreams as a Teen, is about me telling you about my journey to becoming a scholar, $1 million scholar. And so
Hey.
I don't only talk about my journey. I have the journeys of other Gates Millennium scholars who are also considered $1 million scholars. And so you have those templates, those outlines of what it looks like to become successful in getting scholarships, getting fellowships, or getting the income that you want to get. You know, it doesn't have to be, it's very transferable. It doesn't have to just be scholarships. So you can find different ways to think about what success looks like to you, and you can use the book to help motivate you to get you to that next step.
Mm, got you. That's some good stuff, man. And what about if anybody wants to contact you, follow you, connect with you, or maybe consider a parent if they hear this asking about your services? What are some ways to reach you?
Yeah, so you can find me at Donovan Colquitt at all on all social media. You can visit my website, donovancolquitt.com, and the scholarskey.academy, and that'll lead you to my online course where I teach parents and students alike how to get scholarships for themselves or for their children.
Hmm.
Um, and really, you can find me Clubhouse, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn.
Hey,
I'm on all of it. Just feel free to
bet.
connect with me on LinkedIn, follow me on Instagram, and DM me if you have any questions. And I'm always an open book, so feel free to ask me any questions. I'll try and answer them the best I can.
Appreciate that. But yeah, thank you, Donovan, for coming on and being a pal and sharing your story. Hope it was able to inspire some people. But I'm gonna let you go and I'm gonna wrap it up. And I'll talk to you later.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in to that creative conversation. Hope you were able to get inspired. And if you were and you'd like to continue being inspired, there's three main ways you guys can do that. So one, you can always watch the Paul and Pals podcast on YouTube, either live every other Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, or whenever you get the time, because they're always uploaded at the following Monday. And two, you guys can actually listen on all podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple, wherever you guys want to go. And then three, there's actually also a newsletter that you guys can actually subscribe to. Comes to your email every Monday morning. And in that section, I kind of just describe what happened in that episode, but also I add my take. So I kind of talk about what I took away from the episode. So without any further ado, always remember to stay creative.